What is up, San Antonio Spurs? Welcome to TS Sports, and I am honored and privileged to have on tonight for my very first Spurs Roundtable, not only Clan the Spurs fan who I've worked with before, but for the first time, and hopefully not the last, SSPN, Ethan and Jude, the Spurs Sports Programming Network. Good evening, gentlemen.
What's up? Thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah, I'm just excited to be here, my guy. Appreciate it.
And Clan's going to be a circle man tonight.
Yeah, I'm a circle, unfortunately.
He's a circle.
Technical difficulties.
Technical
but you know
difficulties.
At least I'm not a square.
Oh.
So our plan tonight, and to people in the chat, we're gonna probably not really acknowledge the chat much tonight. I'll put your thing up on the screen, but there's gonna be four of us talking, hopefully not at once, where it's all jumbled. But I'll acknowledge that you're here, but we're not going to be able to answer questions, maybe a little here and there at the end. But the goal of tonight's show is we have four Spurs fans that probably have four different opinions on the direction of the team, maybe who should be starting, who shouldn't, maybe who should be here after the season, maybe who should get a new contract, etc. So I'd just like to go through the roster with these three gentlemen and myself and talk about our Spurs and maybe what needs to change to maybe get some wins on the board. So we'll start off, just get right into it from the top of the line to the bottom with the one spot, Jonte Murray. Ethan, what do you think about Jonte this year?
You can't ask much from Jonte Murray. Honestly, 18, 8-8, 2 steals a game. Absolutely the best player on the court for the Spurs. If you can shut down Jonte Murray, then you've won the game. Because we need him to score, we need him to facilitate, and we need him to push the pace in transition, which is our entire identity, is creating turnovers and scoring easy buckets in transition, because we all know our half-court offense has been pretty bad, to say the least. So an A+ from Jonte Murray. He's having himself by far the best season of his career.
Dude?
Yeah, man. Obviously, you guys are going to hear a lot from me and Ethan tonight, and because we're on the same show, you might hear that our opinions are unfortunately similar a lot of the times, but it's also all good. Jonte, obviously, we made a clip before the beginning of the year, and we said that he was going to be the team's MVP. That's exactly what he's been, since the start of the year. We've seen him make some leaps and bounds whenever it comes to shooting, in my opinion. I know he has some off nights, some nights, but I think he's really been able to get more air under the ball. You can tell he's been working with Chip. He's more of a consistent shooter, which is a good sign moving forward. But then also just his leadership ability, the way that he's able to take over games. He's still out there pickpocketing Chris Paul, last night, even though it was another L. Like, you see Jonte doing that to elite NBA ball handlers almost every game that he plays one. So he's just the heart of this team. I'm happy. We're so lucky with that contract we gave him. And hopefully maybe he'll give us another good contract when we have to re-sign him. So just a great year so far from Jonte. He's the shining light in, the 4-12 record. And
last but not least, Blank Man.
Yeah. Dot here. Honestly, when it comes to Jonte Murray, man, I like Jonte Murray a lot. I think that he's a very good player. I just don't think that he is a star. And I think that a lot of the triple-double is great, but I think a lot of the triple-double is kind of circumstance. Like, he's always been a pretty good rebounder. The ball is just in his hands all the time. And unfortunately, we would need Jonte Murray to average over 20 points per game for us to have chances in these games. And I don't think that frankly, I just don't think he's good enough to necessarily do that. So yeah, I don't know. I love Jonte. I think that he's a really good piece going forward, but yeah, he can't be the main. I don't even know if he could be the second guy for a championship running team.
I kind of agree with everything you guys said. Jonte has been, people have been calling him Russell Westbrook light because he's getting close to a triple-double right now for the season, 18, 8-8. But I kind of agree with you, Clint, in the respect that I don't think he's a guy that's going to score 20 a game, but he shouldn't need to be. He's our point guard. He should be more facilitating the offense than have to be the guy every night. And you look at the box score, a lot of nights he's taking the most shots, and I don't think that's going to lead us to victory when you have one guy trying to do everything on the court offensively and defensively. But overall, I think we're all pretty happy with Jonte's performance, it sounds like.
Yeah. I'm happy with it.
Let's and just real quick, I'm not really going to focus on the three-point shooting on anybody particular or the free throw shooting because the team has been bad all around. There's no point in singling out players. We're atrocious from the line, second to last in the league, and our three-point percentage has not been very good either. So it's just, I don't know what Chip is doing, What's he doing, guys? What is Chip doing? What's he teaching these guys? Shoot with your eyes closed?
I'll say the only thing that I'll say there is I think Devin's had a pretty good year shooting the three, but still, other than that, that's the only one thing that you could say. Everybody else is kind of, I mean, even Doug's been inconsistent, which is something that we hopefully, can get fixed soon. And then even, I mean, we saw Keldon, yeah, he's been looking better, but we saw how he looked at the beginning of the year too. So really, it really feels like Devin's been the only thing consistent from the 3-point line, and the free throws are a whole nother thing.
We have 4 starters under 70%. Everybody except for Derrick White, with one of those players being under, I think, 30% now. Let me double check that stat. He is, where is Jakob? He's shooting a solid 29% from the line right now. So anyway, let's get into something that I feel is going to spark a discussion amongst Spurs fans and us here as well. He's on the thumbnail. When I do live streams, a lot of Spurs are advocating for Derrick White to go to the bench. He's been really struggling offensively here and there, and I'd really like to get everybody's thoughts on Derrick White. And do you agree? Would he be better as the point guard off the bench running the second unit, or do you think he should stay in the starting lineup? And I'll go in reverse order now. Clan, what are your thoughts on Derrick White?
Yeah, I think without a doubt he should come off the bench. And I don't even think that it's because, he's trash, he needs to come off the bench. I think he needs to come off the bench because honestly, his the thing that he does the best, I would say probably defense, but maybe facilitating. I would much rather him be a facilitator off the bench and kind of run the second unit a little bit more. I know that's kind of something we wanted, Derrick with the Jonte, because, defensively, they're really good defensively. But honestly, yeah, I don't need. But you know what? Even if I think of it in another regard, who do I want to start ahead of him? It's really only Devin. I don't even know if I can make an argument for Lonnie starting ahead of him anymore. So probably only Devin. So I don't know. It's not many options we have when it comes to that,
Jude, your thoughts?
I'm completely with Clan here. Another clip that me and Ethan made a little while ago was it was pretty recently actually, and it was moving Devin to the starting lineup and moving Derrick to the bench. So that's what I'm with right now. You can just tell that, we've tried out the Derrick and DeJounte thing for a while now. It's worked in a couple of instances, but really the best of DeJounte Murray and then the best that we've seen of Derrick White throughout their careers has been when they're not on the floor with each other, right? Whether it's DeJounte, before Derrick even really, when Derrick was still in the G League making plays in that Warriors series or the playoff series against the Nuggets. And then of course, we saw the bubble that Derrick also had. I mean, so I guess there was a little bit of time they shared together where there's some success, but once again, the majority of time that they've been on the floor together where we've just been forcing Derrick into this kind of, running around screens, being an off-ball shooter, it's just totally taken away the benefits that we had of him as a playmaker. And I felt like, in the rare instances this season where we have seen him, facilitating the offense, I feel like that's when he's been able to find his offense the most naturally. And it's where it's looked less forced, where when he's playing next to DeJounte, it's like you're fitting him into a role that, his skill set necessarily doesn't match. So I'm all for it, but I'm also with Clan. It's like you only really got one option at this point, because Lonnie, that's a whole nother conversation there too. So it's really, I mean, it's you start Devin. I mean, that's where you're at. And I mean, I don't know if they're, the Spurs culture is ready to necessarily do that for Devin yet. We may think yes, obviously do it, but there's a bunch of those check boxes that you gotta check before you get on the floor or start with Pop. So,
and Ethan?
Yeah, I think Clan and Jude summed it up pretty well. Devin should absolutely be starting next to DeJounte. I think he just fits better in that 2 spot, playing off ball. I think we've been trying to shoehorn Derrick into his unnatural position when he's definitely a point guard. He's born to facilitate and play defense, and that's really what he does best. He's not a great shooter. I know he had an anomaly where he was a fantastic shooter in the bubble, but that was the bubble, and it's no longer that case. And I think, TSR, you said earlier in one of your videos that Derrick's kind of hit his ceiling maybe, and that he's not going to get much better than what he is right now. I agree with you, unfortunately. He's at that age, I think, where this is his prime, and we're going to have to accept it for what he is. And in my opinion, that role and where he is in his career just fits better as that primary facilitator off the bench. And it also kind of knocks Bryn Forbes out of that bench unit as our primary ball handler, which is always a great thing. So I think that also benefits the team at the same time.
I guess I agree with everything you guys said. Devin does seem to be the guy that would start in place of Derrick. And I like Derrick White. I really do. But I've been on that train of Derrick DeJounte in the backcourt is going to be awesome. Last year, we tried it out, didn't really work to a great effect. Derrick was injured, so we kept saying, when Derrick's healthy. He's healthy, and I think I'm at the point now, even though he's got the big contract, which may keep him in the starting lineup longer than maybe he should be, Devin's going to give us more size, and we're going to have a facilitator off the bench and Derrick White, where right now we don't need two guys facilitating the offense. And we need to spread the floor more. And Derrick's three-point shooting he's on the bottom rung of our team right now, where Devin, we're seeing him create shots on his own. We're seeing him, get steals and take it coast to coast. We're watching him develop. And Ethan, you just mentioned it. I don't know what Devin Vassell's ceiling is. Derrick White, I do think we've seen probably his peak, and it might have been bubble Derrick or Denver Nuggets Derrick, whatever it may be. But at 27, I don't think we're going to see a ton more improvement moving forward. And all those feet and foot injuries may have affected him a little bit.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
So like with the whole, I think this is part of it too. And I think this is part of the reason why they might not be starting Devin is Pop is really high on playing guys, like having scorers come off the bench, like having really, kind of spark plugs come off the bench. And unfortunately, Lonnie was supposed to be that. And I think if Lonnie would have stepped up and been that, then I think Devin probably would have already started. But unfortunately, we're not really in that position. And Devin's kind of the only one coming off the bench that's a really good scorer. So maybe they're doing that.
No, I think that's a great point. I was thinking of that because it's like right now, it's like Devin is the only source of offense off the bench. It feels like that's what we're going to. We're getting him, a wide open three, and that's how we're starting things. And hopefully it gives us a push or he gets a steal, whatever it may be. So I could definitely see that being just a potential kind of issue there because you have to keep one of those guys. And from what we've seen from Derrick this year, he's, like we said, he's a facilitator. He's not really, a go-to ISO scorer that will, just come off the bench and go get you a bucket. Like that's just, so it's tough. It's real tough.
It's tough. And we need more size on the floor, which we're going to get into a little bit more. We're going to get to my favorite player. So I'm going to be biased and I'm going to start us off. Keldon Johnson. A few people have advocated benching Keldon for Devin, saying, he sucks, da-da-da. And I'll say Keldon has struggled. He's had a very odd year. To start the season, he was hitting all his 2-point shots and missing threes left and right. Now he seems to have reversed that. Now he's our best 3-point shooter the last few games. I don't think he took any last night. And he can't hit twos anymore. It's like he's forcing shots, but I still don't know what Keldon's ceiling is. So at least for the time being, I do want to keep starting him. What I don't want to see, though, is Keldon Johnson playing center at times, which we saw at the super-duper micro small ball lineup when he was what's his name? Cat, when he's going against Cat, I'm like, wait, I'm looking at the lineup. Keldon's at center. So with all due respect to Keldon, yes, I might be a little biased. He's been going against a lot of power forwards that are much bigger than him, and we're almost putting him in a position to fail, asking him to really do too much on the defensive end and on the offensive end, going against these giants when he's 6'5". He's small as a small forward. But I would still like to see Keldon in the starting lineup. And we'll start off. Jude Yummick, let's go like crisscrossing here. What do you think about Keldon?
Yeah, I'm not ready to write off Keldon, and sorry about that. I was trying to adjust my chair, and then I actually did the thing where I went really short. I wasn't trying to be distracting, but that's so. Anyways, regardless of that, though, I mean, I'm sure we were all super hyped up for Keldon just because he went to the Olympics and made the roster. I think that might have kind of like made his expectations in a lot of Spurs fans' minds a little bit too high when it was just like, hey, like Pop was the coach. Yes, Keldon was like deserving here, but also Anthony Edwards got hurt. So that's a whole nother thing too. But I don't think that Keldon is like, I'm not ready to write him off just because of his start to the season. I think that the lack of spacing has continued. That's just like deflated his effectiveness. Another thing that me and Ethan have talked about on our channel a lot is just how it feels like after mid-season last year, everybody kind of figured out like the game on Keldon. Like, okay, he's going to drive to the rim. Maybe he'll shoot an open three, if he's open, but he's not elite at it. So I wonder if, and it seems like his game, like, yes, he's added like the floaters and stuff, but really that's the only thing that I've seen. Y'all can correct me, of course, if you've seen something else from Keldon this year. But really, other than those mid-range, kind of deepening his bag a little bit, that's the only thing that's kind of progressed. So I just wonder if, like, not only is our spacing not that great when he's on the floor, but then on top of that, teams kind of know his game right now. So I just feel like it's all kind of suppressing. A combination of all those things are just kind of suppressing his goodness, if that makes sense.
Let me add this, Jude. I feel like he's Euro stepping more, but because of what you just said with the floor spacing, I feel like the last few games I see him Euro stepping into a wall.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Clan, your thoughts on KJ?
Yeah, I don't think he's that creative when it comes to creating shots, honestly. I think he's very one-dimensional. I think he has tunnel vision. Fortunately, I mean, a lot of times when he gets into the paint, he does make it because he has such good touch, around the rim. But yeah, I'm not crazy about what I'm seeing from KJ right now. Like, I think in the long scheme of things, it's very dangerous the way he plays. Not like as in he's going to get hurt, but I think it's dangerous as in when you're going against teams with like really big guys, or you're going against teams where you're not going to be able to get those layups. You got to have some type of outside shot, and he has no consistent move to go to. The only thing, like you asked, like, does he do anything else? Not really. Like it's usually the floater, around the rim, Duncan transition. The only thing that's different, but he did this last season, but like the fadeaway, like spinning fadeaway, I guess. Is that what you would call it? The spinner. He does that, but I mean, it's not really consistent. Like, I don't know. I'm not huge on KJ right now. Right now, it just seems like he is a role player, but he can, he has room to get much better, obviously.
And he's only 22.
Yeah. And you like guys like that on your team, like, they kind of inspire the team and whatnot, but everyone just looks worse because their roles are just so big now.
And Ethan, your thoughts on KJ?
My opinion lies between kind of what Jude and Clan said. Clan's 100% right. His game is very one-dimensional right now. But I want to preface this by saying he's pretty much meeting my expectations for this season. I didn't really have anything crazy. He's averaging 15 points, but a lot of those points are coming in transition because, like Clan said, he really only has one move, and that's like a hezzy pump fake at the three-point line and then drive it as hard as he can straight to the cup. And, like Clan said, he gets away with it because of how talented he is at finishing. But I think he has like a Russell Westbrook syndrome early in his career, and even a little bit now. Russell kind of gets like bull-headed in China shop. Is that the phrase I'm looking for? Where he just goes, a bull in China shop, where he's going to go straight to the hole. It is no like awareness of what's going on around him, and usually he's either going to force up a shot that clanks off the rim, or he's going to try and force it into Yayaka Purdle or kick it out and gets the ball turned over. And as much as I hate that, I also love that because we need it at the same time, if that makes sense at all. But I do think that Keldon Johnson can evolve into a much better player. I'm not ready to say that he's necessarily a role player for his future. I think he still has a little bit higher of a ceiling than that if he continues to progress. But as far as expectations go, he's pretty much right where I thought he would be.
If he can put together all his shooting metrics together at once.
Yes.
Because his free throw percentage is way down.
A big ask.
Yeah, it's a big ask. If he just finds it, well, like any of our Spurs, if he can find some consistency, I think he could be a 20 points per game guy, but he hasn't, much like our whole team, found any consistency. Next guy, I'm actually going to lead it off because I don't have a lot to say because I've already kind of said it a few times. I like Doug McDermott, much like Bryn Forbes. When he's not producing offensively, I feel like he's a liability on the team because he doesn't bring a lot defensively. And with all due respect, he's our starting power forward. I don't think he's a starting power forward on most of the teams in the NBA right now. It's just he's there out of necessity, not because he's doing such a fantastic job. And we're already undersized as it is. And now in a 6'7" power forward, it's just we need a legit guy. He's Eric Collins. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Doug. We'll go around counterclockwise. Ethan, I'll let you start off on Doug McDermott, Doug McDormand, Doug McBuckets. He has 100 nicknames on my channel.
I love Doug McDermott. I think he's one of my favorite players in the NBA. I think he provides a necessity, like you said, as a three-point shooter for this team. The problem for Doug McDermott is, unfortunately, there's nobody on our team that can draw a double team. So he's not getting as many wide open shots. And at the same time, early this season, he's kind of struggled hitting wide open shots for some reason. Jude and I have talked about this. He hits them more when he's got like a hand in his face than he does when he's wide open.
Like the J.R. Smith thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what's going on there, but if he could just kind of turn that switch off a little bit, I don't know, find a little bit more momentum with his shooting, I think he will prove a valuable asset. But I agree with you. I agree with you, Rich. If he's not hitting his first 2 shots, you might as well just pull him out of the game because it's probably not going to get much better.
Jude, your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of just like Keldon. Like, I don't think that the way he's performing is entirely his fault. Like, I think that, yes, he's missing some threes, but I think also that, like, his spacing and the shots that he's taking, like, and finding your spots, like, I'm sure it was a whole lot easier in Indiana when you have Miles Turner and Sabonis who can, like, demand like a paint touch and like easily draw a double team, like Ethan was just talking about. And then on top of that, you got people like Brogdon and Karis LeVert, a lot more experienced NBA roster, right? And so I think it was easier for him to find his spots on that team than it is here. At the same time, we need him to pick it up a little bit, definitely, because there are some open shots that he's missing too, like Ethan mentioned. But the other thing that I will say about Doug is, while I do agree with TSR for sure that he is a liability, especially when he's playing that 4 position, I also would like to say that I think I was surprised. He was better than like I thought he was going to be on defense, just with his effort. Like, I thought that he was a complete potato, and honestly, I think he's better than Bryn. I think he's better than Bryn. Like, he does a better job. He does a better job than him. And like, if he was guarding people who are, like threes, probably, like, obviously there's going to be some people who beat him with quickness, but he'd probably do an even better job than he's doing right now. So, he's a skilled player. I just think that he needs some more like legit NBA dudes around him to be able to contribute consistently.
And before we go to Clan, the proper way to say Malcolm's name on this channel is Brogdon. Anyway, Clan, your thoughts on Mcdermott?
I think Mcdermott is like a good piece. Like, actually, the one thing that shocked me about him is defensively. I feel like he's kind of kept up with his ball handlers pretty well, like actually really well. I think the only problem that we're seeing from him is the same kind of problem we had with the Bryn Forbes situation, where you kind of overutilize them sometimes. But I will say this, I will blame more so the teammates around him rather than him not being as productive. There's so many times where they could have just gave him like, and it's like simple too. Like, it's very free form. Like, just give him a screen to get him open. And like, they halfway do it. Like, they half-ass on screens sometimes. It's like, come on, man. Like, give him a screen, get him open. Some off-ball screens, but they don't do a lot of that. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of overutilizing them. Overall, though, we didn't really get to see a lot of him, honestly, because he's been out so many times. But I don't know. He's good. I just think it's kind of sad if Bryn isn't doing what he's doing or what he's supposed to do. And now we're starting to look like the same team again when you don't have, multiple 3-point shooters.
Real quick, I have been putting their links in the chat all night. If you have not subbed up Clan the Spurs fan, sub up my man. He's not a gray dot when he's on his channel. He actually does show his face. And let's see if we can get him up to 5,000 this year. But I also really want to get SSPN up to 1,000 because that's such a huge number when you're on YouTube. Really need to help our Spurs content creators out now because the Spurs are struggling. So if you could sub these guys up, help get them to 1,000 because that first 1,000 is always the hardest, just getting to that 1K. So their links in the chat. I just drop them there. Last but not least, and by the way, I just want to say about this Doug, was it his right knee that was costing a couple games earlier this year? Because if it's the same knee, that's starting to kind of give me a little worries moving forward.
I know it was a knee. I know he had like knee tendonitis or something or inflammation, not tendonitis, but inflammation earlier. So I think it might be the same one. I don't know, but I know it was definitely his knee.
It might be. I feel like it is. I don't know. Chat might say differently, but I think it is.
Yeah, Chad, if you know if it's the same knee, please let us know. And more than likely it probably is, which is not a good sign because soft tissue injuries are one of those things that tend to just kind of linger and not go away. So hopefully Doug does not have a problem throughout the year. It always sucks if you sign a player to your team and then the first year they're injured. Last but not least, or at least he's the least when it comes to free throw shooting, Jakob Purdle. We'll go reverse direction. Clan, what are your thoughts on Jakob this year? He has missed half the season because of health and safety, but he did have a strong start before that.
I think Jakob is I don't know. He is what he is. I think that he's one of the most consistent players we have when it comes to just, mere screens, pick and rolls. I think he's gotten better with his hands. I used to get really irritated with him, like pass him the ball and like throws it to the stands. but that's not really the case anymore. I think that I don't know, man. I think that he's consistent. I think he's fine. I'll say this. I think that he's one of the best center, which isn't, I guess that's not saying a whole bunch, but I think he's one of the best centers we've ever had. And honestly, I like him, or I prefer him over even Thiago Splitter. And I think most people probably wouldn't agree with that, but I think he's one of the best we've had.
The disrespect.
I know.
No, I was actually thinking that while Clan was saying that. I've never thought about that before, but they're about the same defensively. Thiago's probably a little bit bigger, and Yak's a way better, passer and can kind of pass from the elbow, which is something Thiago couldn't do. So,
yeah.
But also Thiago's got a ring. So,
did you have anything to add to Anna and Jakob?
I mean, I think when he got hurt, we realized how good he was. Like I think that there's a lot of things that he does. Like sometimes he lets people blow by him, that smaller players do. Sometimes he just kind of lets people go up and get shots and isn't as physical as he could be. But when he got hurt, man, we realized how important he was to our paint defense and, how much he was really holding it down earlier in the season. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, you're going to see that Giannis got like however many points he did against us. But without Yak, he would have had like 20 more than that. So I just think that he's done a really good job holding down our paint. And while I agree with Clan, I don't think that he's like, a franchise, centerpiece moving forward. And there's some things that, he is what he is. I think that he is a guy who can be like, a bench center on a championship team. So that's something you like. Hopefully we can re-sign him, but we got a lot of bigs, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays next to guys like Zach Collins. And if Jacques Lindell gets minutes in the future at the 4, that would be interesting too. So we'll see.
Last but not least, Ethan.
Yayaka Purdle is the perfect center you would pair next to a Hall of Fame power forward. Because he doesn't really score the basketball that much. He's improved a lot this season, and I think Yayaka Purdle is, aside from DeJounte Murray, probably the most important player on our team because we saw what happened to our identity as soon as he got hurt. As much as I love Drew Eubanks, he is not a starting caliber center in the NBA. And then as soon as Yayaka Purdle is out, we don't have a backup center because Drew Eubanks moves up and then Fad becomes our backup center, and everything pretty much falls apart from there. But, Yayaka Purdle's doing what we wanted him to do. Clan mentioned it. His hands are better. His confidence looks like, to me, it's a lot higher than normal. He looks a lot more aggressive. He's more capable when it comes to dunking the basketball, getting put back, tip back, stuff like that, which is always great to see. But at the same time, I don't think he's here long term because we'll probably draft a center, hopefully. And then in the next coming years, maybe we'll draft a guard instead. But hopefully we get a center pretty soon that can kind of replace him as our starting center. So
I like Yayaka Purdle. The term thunder dunk of justice started when he threw down a monster dunk in a game because he doesn't dunk enough. He's dunking more this year, but we saw a lot of these little Olay things in the paint when he should be dunking it. I like him, and I watch him, and I see 100% maximum Deadpool effort. And my heart says, I want Yayaka to succeed, and we can succeed with him. But my mind tells me I just don't think he has enough offensively. And the absolute poor free throw shooting that he has is really hurting the team. It was evident in the loss last night where he was 1 for 6 from the line, and we ended up losing by 4. I don't expect my center to shoot 90%, but 66 to 70% seems reasonable. And mentioning that Yayaka was one of our best centers of all time, I can't really argue that too much. But we're starting with David Robinson and Tim Duncan. The bar is pretty high, and all due respect to Jakob, it falls pretty far from those two to where he is. I mean, it's not even. Yeah. I can't even put that bar in my box right here. It's a massive drop. I like him. The NBA is not what it was when I was rocking the David Robinson jersey, where you didn't need your center to shoot 3-pointers. You need a center now that can spread the court a little bit. You don't need. It helps. I just don't think he has enough offensively, and I think he is a fantastic backup. And he's in the starting position now because we don't have anything better. But I just think long-term, I hope he proves me wrong. And by the way, anybody in the chat, I hope I'm wrong when I say I don't think this guy's got it. I want them to prove me wrong because if that player proves me wrong, that's good for the team. So I always hope any Spurs player, I said, well, maybe we shouldn't extend their contract. Maybe they shouldn't get more minutes. Maybe they should go to the bench, whatever. I hope they prove me wrong. And I'm sure everybody here with me in this stream agrees that, hey, if we say something on a player that they're not playing well, prove us wrong. I would love for Derrick White to shut my face up and average 30 points per game over the next 10 games and be like,
Bryn, I need you to make me quiet.
Well, fairies grant wishes.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the bench. We talked about the starting lineup. Do we really need to say anything else about Devin Vassell? Like, we think we're all kind of on the same page that maybe he should start over Derrick. He's been fantastic in only a year or two. I don't think there's really much to add with Devin.
I think with Devin Vassell, man, it is a big jump. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a big jump from last year. Like last year, he was more so like catch and shoot, which he kind of still is for the most part. But I think he's really grown even defensively. I don't know his ceiling. I cannot tell. Like it's a few players where it's like, oh, it's blatantly out. Like Derrick White, I knew what his ceiling was, like even at the beginning. Like in which I always loved Derrick White, but I was like, I know your ceiling. The Jonte, I was kind of murky on, don't know his ceiling. Devin Vassell, he's a really weird one, man. He's either, I'll say this, he's either going to be really great or like slightly above average. I think that's what type of player he's going to be. I don't even think there's an in between. He won't be bad ever. I don't think.
I'll just add to this, Clint. You kind of just described the Spurs roster to me when I really look at it and just not look at it with my Spurs goggles. We have a lot of players that are average to maybe above average that once in a blue moon will have a great night. But if they're all having an average night, we're going to lose time and time and time again. We need the great nights from players, and we just don't get it on a regular basis. We're not going to get that 30-point Lonnie Walker we've seen once in a blue moon show up against the Houston Rockets or whatever. We need guys to be consistent with 20 to 30, and we have nobody. There's literally nobody on this team averaging 20 points per game.
No. And there won't be.
keep it real, but you're right. No, this is a touchy one because I really do like him. He's one of our most exciting players for sure. That being said, right now he is averaging 10.8 points per game, shooting 37% from the floor and 28% from the arc, and his contract is up after the season. And I'm not sure he's going to get a new contract. We're talking about Lonnie Walker. Ethan, I'll start off with you. Your thoughts on Lonnie?
Man, I don't even know what to say about Lonnie anymore because I've been the biggest Lonnie Walker defender on our channel all of last year. My whole argument was like, Lonnie Walker is going to just turn it on as soon as Rudy Gay and Patty Mills get out of his way because he's a guy that needs the ball in his hands to be successful. And we've given him the ball, and he just hasn't been successful, unfortunately. His passing ability has gotten a little bit better, defensively a little bit better, but he just can't score the basketball. And we need him to be that spark plug off the bench, and for some reason he hasn't been that. And Jude always talks about his inability to hold on to the basketball, and I think it's a big thing as well. He just loses his handle time and time again, or he'll go in for a fancy layup and drop the ball midair while he's soaring about 48 inches in the air because of his insane vertical. But Lonnie Walker is one of these guys where he's going to get a contract from somebody because he's a human highlight reel and because everybody knows Lonnie Skywalker is capable of doing some insane things on the court. But it's the inconsistency for me that is, I can't offer him that big deal at the end of this season because he hasn't shown it. Like he hasn't even done it back-to-back games. I'm pretty sure. I don't even know if he's like 2 games in a row. Has Lonnie Walker played really well? I don't think so. So I mean, that's unfortunately become the mantra with Lonnie Walker IV. Is just an inconsistent highlight reel that we want to be Manu Ginobili, but unfortunately, I don't think he ever will reach that. He won't even get close to Manu Ginobili level.
Dude.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that Pop compared him to Manu, whenever that was. And I mean, I get with, the idea when he was a young age, like I understand the idea of that possibly being, a scenario. I'm not trying to just crap on Pop. I'm just saying that was pretty crazy looking back on it now. And obviously I agree with everything Ethan said. Everybody knows that Lonnie's just been consistently inconsistent. And like we saw that crazy highlight reel layup where he literally put it across his entire body, got it. And it's like, you see one of those like every 18 games. And then once in a blue moon, like everybody was kind of saying, it's like he'll have a good game just like the rest of the roster. But we've seen enough from Lonnie now, kind of like Ethan said too. Like we thought, okay, maybe Rudy, Patty, DeMar are holding him back. We've given him the ball we see it now. He's going to probably get an NBA contract because he's probably still one of the more athletic players in the NBA. So it's like, if you can just harness all this athleticism, he can be amazing. But you gotta hold on to the ball, man. Like you said, there's so many times where he'll just try to dribble and try to make an ISO play, and then he'll just lose it, or he'll just end up passing it off. It just hasn't worked out for him. It's tough because, you had high hopes for the guy, and he's still so athletic, but just hasn't really been consistent in anything other than that Rockets game where he won it. It's just been downhill from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I never bought into the wait until this player gets their chance, or wait until these players are gone and then this player's. I feel like if you're going to be special, you're just going to be special. Like Manu Ginobili was behind Tim Duncan, Tony Parker. Few years Tony Parker was a better player. The entire time Tim Duncan was the best player. But I just think that you're going to shine regardless. Lonnie Walker had a few glimpses, but when you got a large dose of Lonnie Walker, unfortunately, it just doesn't pan out. And one thing that kind of worries me the most about Lonnie is he said that when he was talking to Manu, one thing that Manu told him to do is don't you think too much. You just go out there and you try too hard. Like you always think. And that's just one of those things where I just feel like it's a little more natural. Like usually players, if they're just naturally have that instinct, and I don't know if he naturally has it. I've been seeing every single time he goes out there now, he tries not to think with those passes, and they are turnovers. They are ugly. It's like, oh my God, maybe you should have thought. I don't know, man. I'm not crazy about, and it's unfortunate because I praised Lonnie throughout the entire offseason, the entire offseason. Now I know we're only a few games in, but I think I don't know. I feel like I've seen enough at this point. He would have been able to show something, and his stats are worse. He's gotten worse.
Yeah. I hope this is not the case, but we know Lonnie is a player that's very much driven on confidence. When he's confident, he's a great player. When the confidence is not there, he's somebody you don't really want on the floor. And I just got to wonder, is it in his head that this is the last year of his contract and he's trying too hard? And because he's trying and he's thinking, and I play basketball, I'm sure you guys have all played basketball. I have a hoop out in my yard, and not to reference myself too much, but when I'm making shots, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just out there shooting. But as soon as I miss 3 or 4 shots in a row, I'm starting to think do I need to put more arc on this shot? And I just got to think, is Lonnie in his head too much? And because it's a contract year, worried, do I get another contract from the Spurs? Maybe I don't get another contract from anybody, which could happen if that's just completely messing up the season.
See, but in my opinion, I think great players, that's what they thrive. That's when they thrive in moments like that. This
He's
is my
not
contract.
a great player right now, though.
Yeah, I don't think he's that good. Honestly, I just don't. I used to, and I praised them for the longest. And I'm usually really patient with players. I take my time. I don't just dog on players really quickly. I'm one bad season, I'm not gonna, harp on it. But I don't know, man. Maybe that was just kind of a foreshadowing back when Pop put him in the fire against Golden State Warriors as a rookie. Maybe it was just kind of showing what's to come, because I don't know. I don't know. It's sad.
I don't think he's a Spur next year. Does anybody disagree?
No, he's gone.
Okay. Sorry, Lonnie.
So,
Thanks for the time. Hopefully he plays well wherever he goes.
One more thing on Lonnie. Jalen Rose on the ESPN broadcast in 2018 said his player comparison was Dwayne Wade. Unfortunate.
It's
unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, remember Donovan Mitchell? You remember that? Yeah, that was a big comparison for a while too. I think Donovan Mitchell said it, didn't he? He said it.
Yeah, he did. I don't remember about that one. Did he? Was that on draft night? Did he get compared to Dwayne Wade too? Or
I guess so. I think Donovan Mitchell himself said, "Oh yeah, he's like me."
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm sure. No, there is definitely. I mean, he plays like Dwayne Wade. Don't get me wrong. We know that about Donovan Mitchell.
I don't really like player comparisons anymore because I don't know who said it a while back, but with Devin Vassell, I want Devin Vassell to be the first Devin Vassell. Forget being the next Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly.
Or Josh Primo.
They set him up, man.
Yes,
you're comparing him to Dwayne Wade. What?
Oh no, guys, it gets worse. I just pulled up the article. So yes, Donovan Mitchell did compare him to Donovan Mitchell. And he also said, I love Lonnie Walker. He has that factor that is kind of he's quiet, but he's a killer. it's like Kobe Bryant kind of mentality. I'm not saying he's going to be Kobe. Don't get me wrong, but that mentality.
No, no.
All right.
Oh my gosh, Kobe and D Wade.
Not setting the bar too high there, right? Multi NBA champions and Hall of Famers. I want to drop Clan's link in the chat below, as well as SSPN. Clan's right below me. He's the invisible man. SSPN's over there. It's both Spurs, all Spurs content creators. Sub them up if you haven't already. Let's grow the Spurs community, and let's continue on with the bench. I think it's going to be pretty universal with the thoughts on this man. I don't know why he came back. I talked about this before the stream a little bit. He's an NBA champion. Yes, he wasn't the main guy on the team, but I'm sure as heck didn't think thought he would come back here and get 12 minutes a game, sometimes getting 3 or 4 minutes a night. If he doesn't hit a few shots, he's out. We're talking about Bryn Forbes. I like Bryn, much like Doug McDermott, but even worse, if he's not producing an offense, he is hurting the team. I already saw that man have a minus 12 in like 10 minutes of play. I'm like, your plus minus is higher than the amount of minutes you played? I didn't know that was possible. But Brent pulled it off. He's a turnstile on defense. Nice job, Clint. There. That's what it looks like.
That's perfect.
Perfect. He's very, very stoic. He doesn't move around much. So, but yeah, he's live there. Brent Forbes, people, kind of criticize me a little when I say we should trade him. We won't get anything for him. Look, I'll take anything. A developmental project. Bryn should not be here. We'll talk about him later, but I would rather see Josh Primo get 12 minutes a game. And yes, maybe he's not NBA ready. Maybe Austin would help out more, but we have nothing to lose. We're 4-12. Then give Bryn these random minutes where if he misses a shot, he's not playing. And even if he's playing okay, he's like revolving door on defense. Seriously, I'm 6'4". At least I could offer a little more size on defense than he could. Probably more effort too. So I'm just kidding, Bryn. I don't know why they brought him back. I wish him well, but there's no reason for him to be here. And your thoughts on Bryn? We'll start with Ethan. Go counterclockwise.
Jude and I did like a live stream reaction during the actual free agency, and as soon as we signed him, I was like, why? Like, I don't understand why on earth we would sign Bryn Forbes, because we had such a nice, like, neat roster at that point, and then we signed him, and it just kind of screwed up the whole bench unit. Because to me, I mean, yeah, Primo, I would love to see Primo get minutes, but I would also really like Trey Jones to get a few more minutes. Trey Jones probably would get more minutes because Pop likes to give the experienced guys minutes for some reason, even though Primo's a lottery pick. With that being said, Trey Jones deserves to play over Bryn Forbes because I know Trey Jones isn't as good of a shooter, but he's better at everything else. Defense, slashing, rebounding, passing. He's an amazing facilitator, and he would really fix that problem of Bryn Forbes just getting trapped off of every pick and roll and turning the ball over immediately because he's literally my size out there with these trees, and he can't see over anybody, so he just loses the ball every time he touches it. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. But like I said to TSR before the stream, if Bryn Forbes was on the Bucks again or any team with a superstar level player like a Giannis or a LeBron, he'd be awesome because he'd be wide open. He would be Steve Kerr on the Chicago Bulls in 98, 97, where he can just stand over there and get wide open threes. Perfect. But with us, no, he can't be on the court. It's too much of a liability.
And I think that's where he would succeed again. He had Milwaukee Bucks, a player you have to double team in Giannis, where he can just stand out there and have the open three. And with the Spurs, he's trying to create shots, and that is not his game. Jude, do you have anything to add on, Bryn?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing with him. It's just been unfortunate, that's all there is. It's like if he's on the Suns or the Bucks or the Lakers or all what it may be. Okay, what's the timeout?
Jude, I just want to give a quick timeout. We addressed Derrick White, but we did not say he was garbage. I want to be very clear on that.
Yeah.
Said maybe he should go to the bench. None of us here said he's garbage.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jude, just go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. But on a superstar team, a contending team, Bryn Forbes can be effective. On a 4-12 lottery-bound San Antonio Spurs team, not really. And I just want to kind of reiterate what Ethan said. I mean, even if you don't want to move Derrick White to the bench, which would kind of be able to move Bryn Forbes out of the starting lineup because you feel like Devin is your only spark plug, then just play Trey Jones. Trey Jones is younger, and, we can have the Primo conversation. I'm sure there's a lot of debate there on whether what's better to stay in Austin or get NBA minutes, but you don't even have to have that conversation because you have Trey Jones. And I think that even though we haven't seen it from Trey Jones yet, he is still a competent 3-point shooter. When I say that, I just mean like if he's open, he can hit it. It's not like he's just, it's not like he's Jakob from out there, right? So I think that it's just so obvious that when you have somebody like that, in Trey Jones, a young guard that is even bigger than Bryn Forbes at this point, I just don't see the reasons for playing him. So hopefully he gets moved at the deadline, but knowing Pop and the Spurs culture, we may have to have Bryn stick around for the rest of the year.
And Clay.
Yeah. So with Bryn Forbes, actually, when we first signed Bryn Forbes, I wasn't too upset about it. I thought, all right, so we're just adding more firepower as far as 3-point shooting. He's coming off a championship, so it's going to be a boost there. I'm sure the Spurs were doing him a solid, especially I think he has family in San Antonio. So, I thought it was going to be a nice little fit, especially losing Patty. It was like, okay, we bring in a Patty protege. But yeah, right now as it stands, it is not panned out. I'm actually a big Bryn Forbes person, but I always just relay back to the Game 7 versus the Nuggets. It was like, wow, like he actually showed up when no one else would. But I completely agree with you guys. Like he got to have some type of stars out there. Like he can't be out there and it work with guys on our team right now that can't necessarily create their own space. If they can't create their own space and create their own shot necessarily, how do you expect them to create for other players? They're just not. So that's just kind of the position we're in right now with Bryn. But a lot of his flaws usually are, you can usually hide them if you have, really good talent around them. But yeah, I think for me, I just really overestimated what our team would be. And that kind of messed up the whole thing with Bryn.
And we're too small too. It's totally off subject, but seeing Trey Jones and Bryn Forbes running our backcourt, I was like, oh my Lanta. And then you got like Lonnie Walker at small forward. Like a bunch of little guys out there. I'm like, no wonder why we're getting crushed with second, third, fourth chance opportunity points in the paint. We're just so small. But I think we're all on the same page on Bryn. Like him, wish him well. He's not going to work here. Not with this current unit. Up next, I don't really have a lot to say on him. Drew Eubanks, thank you for starting. You did the best you could. He's a backup center, and I think when his contract runs out next year, he won't be a Spur. That's about all I have on Drew. Clan, your thoughts?
I like Drew, but I kind of agree. Yeah, I don't know. Like I actually was high on Drew too. I was like, oh, okay, he can score around the basket. He has a hook shot that we don't really get to see in the NBA anymore. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to his game. He has like all the ingredients, but he just don't know how to cook. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, he doesn't cook it, man. Like put it in there for like at least 30 minutes, man. Don't take it out after 5 minutes. I don't know. He's not that good. Honestly, I think when you have to overutilize him, that's when it gets bad. And I think that's kind of the theme of this team right now. Just when you have to overutilize this guy, it just doesn't look too hot. And that's the main thing.
Jude?
Yeah, me and Ethan were basically the Drew Eubanks hype channel over the summer. But as things went this year, it didn't work out. Just like Clan said, I mean, the more that you play a lot of people on this team, that's such a good way to put it, the more you kind of just see their flaws and see that they're probably not NBA rotation players. And with Drew, it's like this is somebody that you like to have on your team as a third string center who can push guys in practice, be a great teammate. And then if somebody does get injured, he's going to come in and play his heart out. And that's the thing. Like, it's not about effort with Drew Eubanks. It's just about skills. And I think we're learning that unfortunately, as much as it would have been the greatest meme of all time in Spurs history for him to just turn into, a rotation player for us, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Ethan, your thoughts on Drew?
Well, I'm the only member in the Drew Eubanks fan club. I love Drew Eubanks. I mean, I was super high on the guy coming into the season. I was telling Jude, I was like, this guy's about to average like 10 and 10, surprise the league. Because like Clan said, he's got like a really underrated low post game. And I think the most beneficial like aspect of Drew Eubanks' game was that nobody knew who he was. So all of a sudden he surprised everybody because he could actually jump and dunk, and he was playing with 115% effort out there every single night, which allowed him to occasionally have some pretty great games for somebody that was an undrafted player who wasn't supposed to get any minutes, that was kind of thrown out there last season and this season as well. But this season, clearly they know who he is. They've been keeping him on the ground. He is not very skilled as a big man. Unfortunately, someone's comment, hit it right on the money. He can't set a screen without moving. It's so true. He gets so many moving screen fouls. It's not even funny. And he uses all of his fouls. That's for sure. I mean, he is not afraid of hitting people.
Hey, you got 6 of them. You better use
6 of them. That's right.
Exactly. So I agree with what Jude said. I would love to keep Drew Eubanks on as like a minimum contract third string center to kind of fill the depth chart. But obviously, if you can get somebody better, go ahead and do that as well. I'm not going to be like upset about it because I want to make our team a better team.
We're going to cry. No, we're going to 100% cry. When
I'll
Drew
still be a
Eubanks
Drew
leaves.
Eubanks fan, Jude. I'll follow him whichever team he goes.
He's the only signed poster. Y'all can't see it, but just go check us out. I have a signed Drew Eubanks poster like right here where I'm pointing. It's on my wall. But,
nice.
Yeah.
So he's forever in our hearts at SSPN.
I'll follow him to the Shanghai Sharks. He'll average 30 and 20. But yeah, just a disappointing season so far. But at the same time, he's really been given a really crappy hand to start off. Jakob wasn't supposed to go down early. He was not supposed to be thrust in as the only center pretty much on the roster because Jacques Lindell was getting 0 minutes. He was expected to do a lot, and I don't think he was capable of doing it. And he tried really hard to live up to those expectations, but he's just not that good, unfortunately.
Yeah, but he had the chance, though. That's where you can make, when you get thrown into the starting spotlight, that's when great ones step up and say, I'm going to show you that while he's out, this should be my spot, and I'm going to show you I can take it from him. And unfortunately, it did not quite happen. He had a few moments here and there. He had a career high 18 against, I don't remember who it was.
Hit a bunch of free throws. He's better at free throws than Yacht.
He was a good free throw shooter. And you guys mentioned it. He takes advantage of his fouls like Pop takes advantage of timeouts. You got you got all those to use. Use them, right? If you go away the next game.
I think it would have been, this like slight criticism for the team, just like slight, not really, but I don't really blame Pop for anything right now, really. But the one thing that I will say, like I'll criticize is Eubanks going into the season. They talked about how he could be a 3-point shooter, and I don't think we've put him in many positions to do. Like he shot a couple, but like even
3.
Even Chip England said himself that like Drew Eubanks could be one of the best shooters on the team, which I know that that's crazy and that doesn't sound right, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think Chip would just say that.
Right? One thing hearing it, and then when you see him take the shot and you look at his form, you're like,
yeah, he doesn't have great form.
He drained the first one, and then the next 2 attempts that he's taken like once every 5 games have been abysmal. And the second time he took it and airballed it, and both of them have been airballs, Pop looked at him and was like, "Don't do that again." And then, but then he did it this past game against the Suns, and it was just abysmal again. So it was just like all hope.
If I know correctly,
then it's just his fault. Then
wasn't he open? He was just kind of like, okay. And they finally just
I think he was like, I think he realized Pop wouldn't be mad at him for taking it, but he had already thought about it too long. So then it turned into another, it has to be like perfect form with him. I don't know. You could tell that it's changed a little bit, which is why the free throws and his mid range look better. But from out there, it's just not reliable at an NBA level at all.
That's the only thing that would have helped him or saved him for me to say, oh yeah, he stays with the team. Cause that's what I thought coming in. Like, oh, he has all these other things he can do, but an outside shot, like, oh, you're getting minutes. But now it's like,
weren't all his threes that he were making from the baseline previously?
The ones that he did make?
Yeah, the ones that he did make, I thought were from the baseline. Nice. He's, shooting corner threes, which isn't
I don't
working
know.
out.
I know they were from outside. Like it was on like kind of like the wing is where he's taken most of his threes from, if my memory serves.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Further into the bench, somebody I admittedly was not high on at the start of the year. He's played very well. I don't think he should be a backup center because he's naturally power forward. He's not in the team's future plans because of his age, but Thaddeus Young has been a Swiss Army knife or a switch Army knife, according to Clan, where he's been doing just a little of everything. Scoring, he's a much better passer than I thought he was. He's an abysmal free throw shooter. I don't know what happened. Man, he went from like 70% to 60%. Now he's under the Mendoza line, 40%, just bringing the whole team down along with Yayaka. But I've been happy, not here in the future plans, and I still think there's a chance the Spurs might try to move him to a contender. And yeah, I get it. Some people ask for him to start. I don't think he's going to get the starting role again because I don't think the Spurs look at Thaddeus Young and think there's our power forward for the next 5 years because he'll be pushing 40 within the next 5 years. We'll go counterclockwise. Ethan, your thoughts on Thaddeus Young?
I've always liked Thaddeus Young. I was really happy when we got him back in the DeMar DeRozan trade. I never once thought he would be here long term. I thought maybe we'd try and trade him at the deadline or just let him walk going into next season because his deal is expiring, I believe. But he's played really well despite being thrown into some pretty unwinnable situations. Getting really weird, sporadic minutes, unable to really find a rhythm. It feels like being put in at center, having to guard guys like Mo Bamba and just a really versatile, athletic big men, where he's just unable to compete with his size at 6'7". And he's tried, like Drew Eubanks, he gives you 110% effort every single night. And I think his most underrated capability is his ability to switch and defend smaller guards and bigger centers. I think he's without him, I don't know if we would have won 4 games this season, in all honesty. I think he's actually been very important for our bench, especially his passing ability, because without him at the same time, because Lonnie Walker's been struggling, who's going to create offense for us off the bench? So, like I said, he's not going to stay here long term. Obviously, there's some things that could be better with Thaddeus Young, but he was dealt, again, a horrible hand, and I think he's done his best with what he was given.
Sure.
Yeah, I think kind of going off of what Ethan said at the end there, when you watch Thaddeus Young, at least when I do, it feels like he's just like another night of this. Like when he's playing, like that's just how it looks. It looks like he knows the situation he's in, and he's just making the best of it, like the rest of the team. It's unfortunate with all of the injuries. The fact that he's playing center doesn't make his effectiveness any better. For the situation that he's been in, he's honestly exceeded my expectations with the way that he's passed. And the thing is I'm still I feel like we still see a turnover from him trying to make a pass once a game. But that's really the only mistakes that I've really seen from him, because everything else in the defensive end just kind of comes down to size. And he gives 100% effort and usually for the most part plays great defense. And when he's matched up against somebody that he can match up with size-wise, he's going to do a solid job basically every time. We've seen that his entire career. So I'm kind of just echoing what Ethan said there. It's all about size, and I'm just thanking him for mentoring the young guys while he's here and giving him the knowledge that he has.
So there you go, guys. We have learned that size does matter. Clint, your thought on Thaddeus?
Yeah, I mean that's basically it, man. I think kind of hit the nail on the like. He's good. He's done well as far as passing. He's actually, I agree with Ethan. He kind of surpassed my expectations. I wasn't expecting him to be this good, to be real. But yeah, he's done, very well. I think because when is the next trade deadline? Isn't it right before
All-Star
break?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would still look to move him if you could, get something, because there's no way he's sticking around. But he's done a great job as far as being a leader, and he's came into that role pretty nicely. So yeah, I don't know. He's good. I like what he does. And that's about it. I don't know what else to say about that.
Up next, KBD getting his first start of the. Oh, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just one thing on Thad that I'm kind of thinking about too. It's also like I feels like if hopefully he does get moved, and it kind of if that is the case, I think he may have just kind of been like, yes, it was a part of the trade, but hopefully he just kind of stays in his role until Zach Collins gets healthy, and then he can go somewhere else where he can contribute. So ideally, maybe it happens, because we'll have to see what happens with the Zach Collins injury, but I think that could be the wild card if Thad gets traded or not. It's depending on how Zach plays.
Up next, KBD, Keita Bates. Yeah, and I like KBD. I like him off the bench, not as a starter. And to me, at least what I've seen, I feel like KBD is reverse Bryn Forbes, where he brings a lot defensively and has length. My man can't finish at the rim. and just I don't really think there's enough there offensively where he can ever be a starter in the NBA. I really don't have much to add except last night we saw actually some of those offensive issues he had. I believe he had 2 turnovers to start off the second quarter, and guess who went to the bench right after that? And I don't think we saw him again until the third quarter. But he had just 2 I don't know if it was a pass or what it was, but I know he had 2 turnovers within like 2 or 3 minutes, and then Pop yanked him because a lot of times you're going to be on a short leash with Pop. KBD a quality backup, never going to be anything more than that.
Yeah, 3 turnovers last night.
What was it 3 turnovers? Clan, your thoughts on KBD?
I think that I don't know. I didn't like him initially. After watching him more and more this season, I will say confidently that I like him quite a bit. Like, I think the only thing with him is he's kind of slow. And that's unfortunate, but he's a very good opportunist. I feel like in certain situations when it gets clutch and he's in there, he makes some type of play that was good for us. So I think that he's a solid player, and that's all I can say. And if you look at his stats, nothing stands out. Everything looks bad. He's one of those where you literally have to watch him play because his stats do not look great at all. But overall, I do like him. But I agree with you completely. Like, there's no way he should start. I was a little confused in this game with the starting situation. I was like, why did he start? Like, the starting line was so ugly. It's not like we have so many great starters to throw in there right now, but really, that was kind of weird. I don't know.
What did we start down 22-3 last night?
Something like that. It was bad.
Ugh.
I just wonder, some people have said, I've noticed in chat that we're kind of rushing judgments on players. A lot of the players we're talking about are in their 4th or 5th year. I mean, if they're not developing, how much time are you going to give somebody before you say, hey, it's time to move on? Right now, we're just kind of looking at the team. And as, all fans watching from a TV, what we feel the team needs to improve on or what can change. But do we really think Derrick White's going to give us something different at this point in his
He's
career?
27.
Yeah,
right.
We're not trying to be snap judgments on players, but sometimes you just got to call it like you see it. And at one point, what's the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Jude, your thoughts on KBD?
Yeah, so when he signed that contract after the roster was full, I was like, all right, my man's going to have to go earn a roster spot. I respect it. And he did it and kicked Luka off the team in the process, which was pretty insane.
No, Luka kicked Luka off the team.
That's true. With the Magic thing, yes, absolutely. But at the same time, he's just a solid player. He's a guy that you're happy to have on your roster. He's a young player, probably still has a little bit of upside, nothing crazy. He needs to develop more skills offensively. But other than that, he's a modern switching 3-4 wing. We've played him at center sometimes this year because of the situation we're in. Hopefully that does not continue after we get, some guys back from injury. But still, he's another guy kind of like that, exceeded my expectations for sure. I'm happy he's on the roster. He's a solid athletic player who gives a lot of effort, and played with D'Angelo Russell at Ohio State and was a really good college player. That I know that doesn't necessarily translate to the NBA, but just kind of the things you take from being on a good college team and being a leader, some things you can translate. But other than that, I think really he's, at best, he is a backup in the NBA. So
he's cheap. He's young. He likes the other guys on the team. He's a versatile defender. I agree with what everybody here said. I think he's a 3rd string guy, career reserve depth player who can come in every once in a while and guard, like a 3 or a 4, like Jude said. But offensively, he's got nothing. He's got absolutely nothing to offer the team. But I like him a lot. I think he's got great chemistry with the other guys. He seems to be a very well-liked player, a good locker room guy. And for what we're paying him, I'll take it, honestly.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Up next, Trey Jones, who we've talked about. And I didn't really talk about this when I mentioned Bryn Forbes' minutes going to Josh Primo, but I like what you guys said. Trey Jones has shown, some flashes here and there, capability as a backup point guard. And I know what I have with Bryn Forbes. I don't know what I have with Trey Jones. All I'll just say is, you know what? I'd rather see Trey Jones get Bryn Forbes minutes. We're going to put somebody out there that's just a little over 6 feet. Let's put up the guy we drafted, not the guy that we just got back from the Bucks. Ethan, your thoughts on Trey?
I'm super high on Trey Jones. I know he hasn't had a lot of play time in the actual NBA yet, but coming out of college, I was high on Trey Jones. I was super stoked that we actually got him because he's one of the few guys coming out of college that's a pure point guard. And the Spurs are really good with pure point guards. A guy that looks to pass first, score second. And what he showed me in the G League this past summer, he has improved as an offensive player as far as finishing goes. He's really good off of pick and rolls, which is, if anybody's watched a Spurs game, half of our playbook is just pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll over and over and over again. So that's his specialty. And like I said earlier, he does everything that he does well is what Bryn Forbes does horribly. And that's dribble the basketball, pass the basketball, and defend. And I think that's what we really need off the bench unit anyway. So I think if you give him a chance, he will do what TSR said earlier and take that opportunity and just run with it, where guys like Lonnie Walker have kind of failed to do so, and Luka Samanic to an even greater degree as he is no longer on the team.
Jude?
This may just kind of be the symptom of the backup quarterback is always, the most popular guy on the team. But with Trey Jones, I'm all for giving him minutes and putting him in that backup rotation role there, because if you go look at like their college tape, every point guard we have on the team, the one who looks like the most natural point guard is Trey Jones. Granted, he also played at Duke, so you have that. But I think they were kind of a down year the 2 years he was there. Definitely didn't win national. Well, I don't know. He might have won a national title. I don't know enough about college basketball and the history to be talking about it. But anyways, going back to Trey Jones, though, and what we've seen from him this year, he has been a fantastic cutter. That was a skill that I did not know that he had. And that might just been from a lack of tape. But the way that he has come in this year, whether it's been Thad, whether it's been DeJounte, he's been able to kind of create like an offensive play for us with him cutting to the rim, which is something that we haven't had on offense this year. A lot, it feels like we've just been, all right, somebody get an ISO, I'll dribble around, can't find anything, I'll pass it to somebody else. Where when he's come in, it's like, okay, he's been able to not only prove himself as a point guard, we just know he has that, but he's also proven himself as a off-ball player with his cutting ability as well. And we know that he's a solid defender. Just like Ethan said, I mean, the only thing that Trey Jones needs to get better at is shooting. And he's not starting from like a horrible place. There are Spurs, he's probably starting a little bit higher than DeJounte, if I'm being honest, whenever it comes to his shooting ability. At least from what I've seen, at least if you go off his college stats and G League as well. So we'll have to see how he develops. I think that he's a player that we have a lot of hope for, depending on how his career progresses. So hopefully we can utilize him in the right ways.
Grant?
I don't know. Maybe I just haven't seen enough of Trey Jones. Like, I've watched all the games, but the most that I've seen from him is just back court or back cutter. Like, he's just a nice cutter off, screen. I don't know. I think without, I'll say this, without like Thaddeus Young, I don't think he would look as impressive. As far as him being a pure point guard, I definitely see that. Like, I could see him more than like being a good, solid backup point guard. But more than that, I guess I've just never been high on Trey Jones. I just don't see him as like that worth playing. I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. That's mean.
No, it is what it is. I mean, hey. Who knows? We're going to get to the players now that aren't really playing this year, and I'm not sure we're going to have a lot to talk about them. The first one is, depending on which channel you're on mine, it's Optimus Primo. Sorry, clan. Josh Primo has a load of talent. We've seen it at 18. Let's be honest, if this kid turns into a superstar, not only does it help our team, but it would sorely help all our channels, because people love Josh Primo content when he's out there playing. I know there's an argument to keep him in the G League to develop him, but then I look at somebody like Luka Samanic, who tore it up last year, who's tearing it up again this year in the G League with the Knicks. I don't know what the Knicks G League team is, but he just went
the Westchester Knicks.
The Westchester Knicks. He went for 32 a few nights ago, but none of that has translated at all in the NBA for Luka Samanic. So I get giving him minutes in the G League right now, but we're 4-12. At some point, I think we got to throw him to the fire this year. Maybe after the All-Star break, give him some more time to develop in Austin. But, I mean, seriously, fans are chanting his name when we're at home. Give the fans something to be excited about, because right now it was really sad watching the Spurs game last night, and that darn arena was half empty. I mean, there was almost nobody there. Your thoughts, Ethan? We'll go. Or actually, no, Clint, we'll start with you. Go this weekend. Clint.
Yeah. So Josh Primo, he is that guy. He is amazing. I think that he's going to end up being like a new franchise player for us. Like I really do. I think that he has the capability of being able to build around when it's all said and done. Once his skills get even more polished. As far as our approach right now, I completely agree with you. I actually been saying the exact same thing. Like I could see him getting minutes after All-Star break. I think right now it's okay for him to be in the G League. He's even talking about how he's growing defensively. He's growing in certain situations. Like one of the games, he went like 1 for 7, played terrible in the first half, but then he got that opportunity in the second half. Now, if he was on the Spurs right now, there's no way people would say, "Oh no, keep him in the game after 1 and 7." Everyone would want him to sit after going 1 for 7. And the pop would sit him. And the thing as well is with the team that we have right now, it's like tryouts, man. I think we're really putting everyone else in the fire. Like allow him to do his thing in the G League. Everyone else get under the fire and see if any of you are worth the future. But I think that they know that Josh Primo is the future, and that's okay. Like we can keep him right there. He can still develop while we're grinding out with these other guys.
Josh Primo right now, he's like our baby Jesus in the manger, and we got to make sure we take him out at the right time. We can't take him out too early. We can't take him out too late. We got to make sure that it's right.
So that he can be timer on his shoulder.
So that he can be our savior that is much needed right now. No. He's 18, the youngest player in the draft. Already kind of looks like a knockdown shooter for the most part from what we've seen. He's had some off nights like Clan just mentioned, which is why I think that it's a good idea to continue to let him be in the G League I think the Spurs should just go through their process like they went through with DeJounte, like they went through with Derrick, like whatever that is, maybe. And I know that kind of sounds like the whole year, but I think that at least they should get it to the All-Star break, kind of like Clan said, before you just start throwing him out there. And because you don't want to throw him into this situation with this crappy team and then his confidence gets shot and then something happens. And I understand that people probably in the chat right now are like, his confidence is going to be fine. But this will be the last football reference I'll have on the show, but you can ruin a freshman quarterback if you throw them in a game, early, just in a big game early in their career, and then their confidence is shot and they never get it back. I can't tell you how many college quarterbacks I've seen that happen to. And I know that this is a different sport, but I still think the same idea is applicable. You don't want to, I don't think that this is going to happen to Primo just because of his mentality is another thing that I love about him. Just the way that he carries himself off and on the floor. It's so stoic, and it seems very, for such a young player, it's just very intriguing. It's not something that you see very often, but we got to let him make that. If he's still going 1 for 7 in the G League, I don't want to throw him out there with this team. I'm just going to be honest. I think, we give him a little bit more time, but I don't want to ruin him with this roster. He needs to be put in a situation where he can succeed. We can't just throw him into a dumpster fire and ruin him. We can't let this fire spread to him. We got to keep it, on Lonnie.
You didn't start. Keep it on Lonnie. Ouch.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I felt so bad saying that, but it's the truth. Your casualties, you got to choose the right ones.
Dude, I kind of see what you're saying there. Throwing young players out and, putting them onto a bad team. Could it affect their confidence? Could they?
We've kind of already seen it a little bit.
You think we've seen it with Primo?
Well, with Lonnie. No, on this roster. You know what I mean?
Here's what I'll say. With all due respect to Lonnie Walker, I don't think he's mentally strong enough to have it every night in basketball. He doesn't have that it factor. I don't want to say he's not mentally strong. He doesn't have that supreme elite confidence.
He can block it out.
Yeah, like Tom Brady has, the guys that gets thrown into the fire. And, if Josh Primo is meant to be the guy that's really going to carry this organization, there's no time this season that the Spurs throw out there won't be the right time, because he should be ready to say, hey, yeah, man, I know he's 18. We do have to factor that in, but if he's ready to, go out there and start his basketball career, there's no point. We can't just drop him in there and he won't succeed on some level, because either he has it or he doesn't. I mean, we could develop it. We saw it with Lucas Hominic. We developed him for 2 years in the G League. He clearly did not have it mentally to be a San Antonio Spur. Just the effort wasn't there. The last player we saw him giving up on a fast break was what did him in. Either you have it or you don't. And I get maybe, taking it easy with them. I think I agree with what I kind of said here, and you guys are agreeing. Keep them in the G League to the All-Star break. And if we have like 10 wins or 12 wins, and I hate to say that, if we're somewhere
but
down there,
it might be there.
It might be there because I don't think Pop gets the record this year. We're not pacing
I
to
think
get
we're
it.
at I think right now we're just at the start of the roller coaster, and it's about to be a long drop down.
Yeah.
I think
It's
the
not a roller
guys can
coaster,
tell. I think they can tell.
I actually agree with UTSR on that. Like I think if his confidence is shot from putting him in this early and like it destroys him, or I don't think that he's not who I thought he was or who he could be in that regard. Like Lonnie Walker, that's a huge issue. If your confidence can be shot like that, you're just not that guy. I think if you're going to be that guy, you're just going to be that guy. I'm not convinced that I don't know if like you mentioned Tom Brady, like if Tom Brady was in a terrible situation, rookie year, and he did have to fight to get to where he was actually.
Drew Bledsoe got injured. He just got thrown into the fire and won.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're going to be that guy regardless. You're just going to be that guy.
I want to give you guys a quick different analogy though. I don't know if there's any UFC fans here.
I am. Actually, I'm a big UFC
So Jude,
fan.
you probably would get some of these. I've seen so many times in the UFC where the champion's supposed to fight fighter A. Something happens with fighter A, and he's out. One of the biggest examples I think of is Michael Bisping, a guy that never got a title shot in his career. All of a sudden gets thrust into the main event, and here's your opportunity. One of two things happens. You step up and you be a champion, and you go out and win the biggest opportunity of your life, or you crumble with the spotlight on you in the main event. And I've seen that happen too. So I agree with what Clan just said. Either you got it or you don't. And I've seen it time and time again in UFC where somebody steps up and they show, hey, I deserve this spot, and they go out and get it. And Josh is going to have that mentality. If he's going to be the next David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, or Kawhi Leonard, when the opportunity is given to him, no matter when it is, he's going to have to step up and take it. If he collapses under that pressure, then he's probably not the guy.
Yeah. That's facts. I think like listening to y'all, I think a better way I could have worded what I said. We can't throw him out there if he's not NBA ready, like with schemes and all that type of stuff. I guess that's what I was saying.
That's fair.
No, because that's a fact
agree.
though. Because he's gonna if you're that guy, like you're gonna be that guy regardless though. So.
And Kobe and LeBron both got going. They were 19, and Josh will turn 19, I think, in December. So I mean. Either he's it or not. And speaking of who's it, you're up, Ethan. Your thoughts on Josh Primo?
Well, I love Josh Primo. I would love to give him minutes now if I could. I think the All-Star break is probably a more likely thing, but it's really not up to us at all because Pop in the front office might not give him any minutes at all. And that's just, unfortunately, a possibility at this point, just because of how we treat our young guys. And, we have so many players that are trying to prove that they belong on the team, fighting for contracts, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I agree with what TSR and Clan and Judy, what y'all were saying about if he's the guy, he's just going to be the guy. And I think back to Kobe Bryant when he was 19 years old. Didn't he airball 3 or 4 times in a row in one game? And Shaq was like, hey, man, it's all right. He'll get him next time. And Kobe just shrugged it off and came back the next game and dropped however many points and became one of the greatest players of all time, dropped 81 in a game. And Primo reminds me of Kobe Bryant. I don't want to put too many, comparisons on this kid.
Setting the bar low, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, he's got the fro and everything, and just his demeanor, his body language, how he carries himself, his just confidence is off the hook. So I would love to throw him out there and just see what he's capable of because they don't have any film on him. So he might be able to surprise some guys with some pretty incredible games. So I'd love to see what he's just made of. You know what I mean?
Now we get to the point of players that just aren't really playing much or aren't playing. We'll start off with Jacques Lindell. I'll leave my opinion for the last. And then, Jude, I haven't had you start off first. So Jude, Jacques Lindell, there's not a lot to talk about, but.
Look, man, those 10 minutes he played were amazing. They were beautiful when they were in there, but that's all we've seen. And it was in garbage time against third stringers for the most part. So really, he is intriguing because of his proven shooting ability. I think that shooting 39.6% on 6 attempts in the NBL. I think that you've proven you can be a solid shooter from the outside in a professional basketball organization. Like I said, we saw like a little bit of that, as little as you could possibly get in the minutes we've seen from him. This whole rookie thing, I don't really expect him to get minutes this year. But I'd like to see him get minutes. I think that if he was healthy, I would like to see him probably playing over Eubanks. But I just don't know if that's going to happen because of the way the Spurs do things. But as of right now, he looks like a really intriguing pickup that could potentially be a rotation player for sure.
Clan?
Yeah, I think that Jacques Lindell, I really like his game. I think the only weakness he's going to have is defense. Not saying that his footwork or like his fundamentals aren't there. He plays fundamentally good defense. I think he's just going to be kind of overpowered against bigger guys. And that's unfortunate. So I don't think you're going to be able to play him a lot at center. And when you do, it's not going to look great. But overall, what I've seen from him, it seems like he has pretty high IQ, makes the right passes, right screens. Shot selection's really good. I actually have really high hopes for him. Unfortunately, if he's not a star level, which I'm assuming he's not going to be, but if he's not necessarily a star level player, then he's just going to be another one of the guys where a lot of us are complaining. And, a lot of us are going to be like, why are we playing? He's just not going to look great if he doesn't reach that potential. But I don't know. He's good. I like him. He's going to be all right.
I mean, you might as well throw him out there. I mean, I don't want to make any assumptions about his play. I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched him outside of the Olympics and then the 5 or 10 minutes he's gotten on the Spurs here and there, mostly in the preseason. He looks good. We need size. Size has been an issue all season long. Pop has said in the offseason he wants to play with rotations, and thus far he really hasn't played with them that much. So if he's healthy, is he back from COVID protocol? I think he's already back, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, just might as well throw him out there. I mean, especially if we're losing, see if he can turn it on like Lonnie Walker did back in the day against the Rockets. Maybe he's a spark plug. Maybe he has a great game. Who knows? But at this point, we're probably not going to win. So just throw him out there and see what he's made of.
I was gonna say this too, like with Jacques Lindell, you guys know this too, but I think the main reason he didn't play a lot was because of the concussion. So it was just so many setbacks for him.
That's tough because he had the concussion, but right around the same time, my star quarterback, Daniel Jones, not a star quarterback, from New York Giants, had a concussion where he was carted off the field and was walking wobbly, played the next week, and that's in a full contact sport. So I'm not so sure the concussion kept him out for as long as well. You're not alone to claim. A lot of Spurs fans think, he's still out because of the concussion. I'm like, is he though?
Well, I think Popovich confirmed that. Like at least Popovich said it. I mean, he said that was because of the concussion that they kind of been real hesitant with him. And then the safety protocol stuff came up and it was just kind of bad. I don't know.
I'll say this about Lindell. I heard you guys call him a rookie. I don't think he should be getting the rookie treatment. He's 26 years old with a lot of foreign international basketball experience. He was the NBL Finals MVP
medalist.
Champion, bronze medalist. This is not a guy that's just coming out of 4 years of college that is green. He has 8 years of basketball now under his, on his resume, but we're treating him like a guy that's played 1 year in college. I would much rather see him get minutes over Drew Eubanks. I know for sure what Drew Eubanks' ceiling is. As much as I like Drew, I have no idea what Jacques Lindell's ceiling is because I haven't seen him play except for here and there. He had 10 points, actually. I think it was in 5 minutes. Somebody put it in the chat. We have nothing to lose. We're 4-12. When he's good to go, I know there's loyalty to Drew. I get that. I respect that. Drew Eubanks is never going to be a starter with the San Antonio Spurs. Jacques Lindell, I don't know if he's a guy that can start going out there hitting threes and, spread the floor, which we need desperately, but still kind of give us some type of Jakob defense with 9 or 10 rebounds, maybe a block or two, but just be much more of an offensive weapon and hit free throws. I think we got to give him a chance at least to show us what he's got. And if we're not going to play him, then the heck we bring him over for?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Joe Wieskamp, I got nothing to say. I didn't follow his college career. I know he had a big game winner. He's been playing well in the G League. I think he's going to be in G League all year.
Wheezy F. Bucket. That's his nickname.
Does anybody have anything to add on Joe? I mean, really?
Joe Mama. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, got him.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Yeah, that was good. We're going Joe Wieskamp, G League all year, barring something weird happening.
Yes.
Last but not least, a player
Well,
that has.
here, I think Clan had something to say.
Yeah, I
about
want
it.
Sure, go ahead, Clan.
I have something to say too.
Yeah, I want to add something. I think, I know this is crazy. I think him and Primo are going to be a dynamic duo. I think they're going to be a really good duo together. I think that they have a really good relationship right now. Obviously, I mean, you're drafted in the same class. I mean, it's just going to happen. But overall, what I've seen from Joe Weezy, dude, I think he's really good as far as just letting that thing rip. But the more I watch him, the more I'm pretty confident that he could be a pretty decent NBA player. Like he's the real deal. Not afraid of any moment. He's hitting really big shots in the G League. He's basically leading the team. And even last game, I mean, he outscored Primo pretty decently. So overall, Weezy's really good. And even if I go off the NBA during the preseason, he was good too. Like I love Weezy.
I like him. It's just I see another player that's in that 6'5", 6'6" range that we have so many of. But Jude, you said you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, just the thing with Wieskamp. I mean, Clan honestly said a lot of it. The way that he's been performing in the G League. Oh, wait, 1 second, y'all. Okay, sorry, I had music going in the background. But regardless of that, Wieskamp has been a proven shooter, and I think he's somebody who could kind of be like Mcdermott. I think obviously he shouldn't be playing the 4. He should be playing, one of those 3-2 positions, but he is better driving to the paint and a better rebounder probably than people would expect. And on top of that, he's a solid 3-point shooter, which is the main reason he drafted him. But he's not just that. Like, he's got other skills, and his 6. There you go. Anyways, lost completely track.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. You're good. I wasn't sure what you were saying, but
I was showing the chat 6'6".
Yeah. Weezy has been he looks like a really good player, and his chemistry with Joe, like Clan mentioned, or not Joe, he is Joe, with Josh Primo. I could see them running pick and rolls together and him fading off that, and that can open up other things for the offense. Those dudes can play. And I think that he's definitely a guy that can be a rotation NBA player for sure. He gives a lot of effort too, more athletic than you'd expect.
Are you going off of that that play? Crap, what game was it? I mean, they only play like 2 games, but I guess
went for 22.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that play where they kept giving each other screens back and forth, like who's going to hit the big three at the end, and end up being Joe. That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. They were playing a little screen ball.
Yeah, it was in a crucial situation too, like near the end of the game. We really needed a shot to tie it, and they were trying to get it either Josh or Joe open, and they kept going back and forth, and Joe ended up being the one to get open.
Last but not least, he has yet to play 1 minute with the San Antonio Spurs. The Portland Trailblazers thought he had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, injuries have derailed his career. We got him on a fairly cheap contract. A lot of Spurs fans, myself included, are hoping this player can be the player that the Blazers thought he could be when he was drafted, and really maybe be our starting future power forward, because we need some size out there. Clearly, I did not follow him all in Portland, so let's get some thoughts from you guys if you followed any of his career. We're obviously talking about Zach Collins. Ethan, I'll start with you.
He'll be an upgrade. He'll be, I'll love to have him in the rotation. Like you said, he addresses a need for size. He's a much better shooter than I thought he was. I've watched some of his highlight reels, some of his film. He's really a big body, and that's really our number one need right now, is just a big body that can battle down low, get some rebounds. So I'll take him, honestly. I don't want to say too much. I don't think he's going to be a savior per se. I don't think all of a sudden we're going to become a winning team this season because of Zach Collins, but he will definitely have an impact that we definitely need.
Dude.
So this is Trey Lyles 2.0 in my opinion, and we're hoping, and I think there's a lot more like hope for this one, like especially with consistent tape from Zach in Portland, but there were some mistakes in that tape too if you go watch it. So hopefully the Spurs can kind of hone in what he does well, use that effectively, and kind of work on the things, and this new development staff can kind of maybe help, maybe not completely fix, but help improve, the areas where he struggled a little bit. So if that can happen and the Spurs can get the most out of him like they wanted with Trey Lyles, then he'll be an effective player. I think at worst, even if he ends up being Trey Lyles 2.0, which we don't want to happen, he'll at least be 6'11", which is going to help us. So I think at worst, like Ethan said, he's going to be an upgrade. But I think that there's also like an off chance. This dude's only 23 years old, played at Gonzaga. I think that this is a small chance, probably not likely, but I think there's a chance that the Spurs could unlock something in him that maybe wasn't unlocked in Portland. And, maybe his ceiling could be raised a little bit just being with the Spurs development staff. But he's also coming off that foot injury. We're going to have to see how that goes with big men. So there's a lot of question marks with Zach Collins, but at the same time, there's also like, okay, I think we know his floor. And I think that his floor is better than what we have right now coming off our post on the bench. So,
dude, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, chat or anybody else in the stream right now, I think he had multiple surgeries on his ankle, and that's what he's coming off of, which is really a little alarming. So he's young, hopefully bounces back, but I also hope there's not a lot of screws and pins holding that thing together.
Yeah. I guess my thing is like, well, I think about Rudy Gay and how Rudy Gay basically, career could have ended, and he was fairly healthy for the most part with the Spurs. And that's a big, that's big due to us. Even Tim Duncan had a really bad knee. The Spurs kind of worked through that. Manu Ginobili completely tried to injure himself every single game, and we worked through that. So like, I think if Zach Collins is going to be healthy anywhere, it'll be in San Antonio. With that being said, a healthy Zach Collins is like borderline star level of talent. Like when he's on. He has crazy amount of intensity. His defense is a huge, even with us having Yayaka, who's a good defender, in my opinion, his defense is a big upgrade from that. Scoring wise, he can basically score on any part of the court. Like I think overall, his attitude is what's really going to set him over the edge. Like if you go back and look at even like clips from him, people have made compilations of this guy where he goes against teams, they talk trash, he talks trash right back, and then he just like blocks them on the other end, or he makes a big shot on. Like he's capable of doing that.
Give me some nasty.
Yeah,
he's nasty, man. I think
factor.
Yeah, I think he can. I think he can really show out for us if he stays healthy. That's the only thing, just staying healthy. Also, I don't even think it was a big, because some people said that like it's a big risk. I don't think it was a big risk. Like $7 million, and then you're only guaranteed half that $7 million in the last year. You're guaranteed none of it. That is not a risk. Like we can get a lot out of that if he stays healthy.
Yeah, Clint, I think his contract was $7 million guaranteed this year, half next year in his final season, nothing. So if it doesn't work out by next season, we can.
You're good.
And there's 2 team options, I'm pretty sure. Like both of the years are team options.
Were they?
So like none. At least that's how it is in 2K. Maybe Ronnie got it wrong, but he usually does that. He does do that. Yeah, he does. But yeah, in the video game, there's 2. Like it's a player option for both years. So.
I hope he pans out. We desperately need size. And I think that's one thing we can all universally agree on is obviously, one, we want what's best for the team, but this team is just so small. And we used to talk about the size being an issue last year and the year before, but I think this year it's at a whole new level. We're just getting decimated on offensive rebounds by the other team, and we're just getting killed on second and third chance points. Teams are dunking left and right. The amount of alley-oop dunks we're seeing on us, because we really only have one big man out there, and if Jakob's not right by the rim, they're just easily dunking. And sometimes it's Jakob's guy who's dunking on because he's too busy, I don't know, looking for how to shoot, free throws for dummies. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about with you guys, this is a touchy subject for Spurs fans, but it has to be addressed because it comes up a lot on my channel. I'm sure it comes up on your channels as well. Should Pop go after the season? A lot of Spurs fans say he's earned the right to be here for as long as he wants, and I say I get that. That being said, if he has a losing season this year, comes back next year, has a losing season, at what point do you say this is no longer working? Not to mention Greg Popovich, while one of the greatest NBA coaches of all time, has been coaching in the NBA for 25 years just as a head coach, and the game has changed substantially from when he started with the Spurs to where we are now. And some fans, and even myself, wonder, is his coaching style just not work with today's NBA, or maybe the players, or both? Ethan, I'll start with you.
I'm not ready to go that far yet because I know he's been around for a very long time, but he's always seemed to change his coaching style as the game has progressed since when was he here first? Was it 96 was his first
96,
year?
97. Interim
96,
coach when David
97.
Robinson got hurt, and then he took over when Tim was
Yes.
drafted.
Yes, I mean, and he's always gradually changed his play style around whatever personnel he had on the roster, and he's always been very successful. Obviously, getting 50 wins every season for was it 2 decades, and then making the playoffs every year until a couple years ago.
22 years of 50 wins, 18 years of the playoffs, I believe, is what we did.
Yes, exactly. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. I think that Pop will just retire on his own whenever his contract is over. I don't envision him wanting to continue with another contract, another extension, because this team is so young and he is so old, and he has really nothing left to prove other than getting that all-time win record, which I'm sure he'll get it. Maybe not this season, but isn't his contract all the way through next season as well? Anyway. His current one?
I think it may be through 2023. Let me double check that.
He's the president, so I mean, technically, he can.
True, he can extend himself if he wants to. I don't envision he will do that. I also have no desire to fire Popovich or tell Popovich like, okay, it's time for you to resign. Like, I don't want to do that because I don't think there's a better.
It is 2023.
2023. Okay. I'm not sold that there's a better option just out there somewhere, like ready to be signed. Some secret unknown head coach that's going to turn these guys around. I think the main problem is the roster and, the talent level that he has at his disposal. I don't think it's coaching. I know he makes some questionable decisions with rotations, but also that can also be a symptom of just who he has on the roster. He doesn't know who to put in the game because we don't have any big men other than Yayaka Purdle at this point in time. And we have so many guards that all want to prove that they deserve their contracts coming up, or they deserve to be, compensated as such as a star player, be the future of the Spurs. So I think there's just too many variables to point out at Pop and say, you're the reason we're losing. I don't think that's the case. So I would just let him play out his contract. Hopefully he decides, it's over for me. I'm done. Nothing left to prove. Peace out, San Antonio. You're welcome. 5 rings. Good luck down the road. So that's where I'm at right now. I think that's probably where he's going to be.
Ethan, I'd like to bounce back off of something you said where, Pop is dealing with, the lack of size on the team, et cetera. But doesn't Pop have a lot of say on the players that we bring in? So this roster is also, it's not only, the front office, but it's Popfo for a reason. Isn't he part, this is the team he assembled. And we, the last 2 years we were trying to keep winning with DeMar DeRozan, Patty Mills, Rudy Gay, clearly in LA until he left and then retired and then came back and now is all of a sudden good in Brooklyn. I don't know what that's all about, but I feel like he should shoulder a little of that blame too. And it's hard to call somebody out that's done so much for the franchise. But I watched some old Spurs DVDs and I saw the relationship he had with Tim Duncan. Like they were like this, and he doesn't. I don't see that. At least maybe I'm missing it, but I don't feel like he has that with the current roster where, that tight connection. And part of it could be his age too. He is not a father to them like he was with Timmy. He's a grandfather to them.
His mentality's definitely changed, but it's also a completely different vibe because with Timmy and Tony and Manu, like other than his first season, Pop always was like, we're going to be right there in the playoff hunt. We're going to be right there in the championship hunt. So it was a little bit different, I think. But you're right. The roster is definitely a partial product of Popovich. But at the same time, it was derailed a little bit by big old number 2, the Claw, who decided to, really,
and
just derail the whole process. But yeah, go ahead, Jude.
And also the other thing is with Pop, it's like maybe this roster isn't assembled to be like maybe Pop. This roster is purposely assembled to be a young, like transition year team where we see what we get out of the guys, which is why you see what I'm saying. So maybe it's both. Maybe it's, yes, he did assemble the roster, but also the roster isn't assembled necessarily to win. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you can't, I don't know. It's a very interesting thing because while he did trade for him and you could get mad at Pop for like, hey, these are the guys you're playing. And you told us it was going to be a super exciting brand of basketball to watch every night, in the preseason interviews. And now we're all angry, but it's like, I don't know. And not everything is black and white. If you get what I'm saying, like there's always nuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to add some more things in regards to Pop, or did that kind of?
I mean, I'm with Ethan there. Coaching, coaching sometimes depends on talent. I've kind of learned that. I have a really close friend that I work with who's been getting into coaching basketball, and that's one of the things he's telling me. And another thing, this will be the last thing I'll say here, is he actually trains the Spurs sometimes, and he did a session with Trey Jones and Zach Collins recently. And Zach's looking pretty good. I totally forgot. So, like, health-wise, he's looking pretty good, and he's training right now. So that's another good sign with him.
Good.
Yeah.
Before we get to Clay, I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a moment for Greg Popovich. But then, before I say anything, I love Pop. I love what he's done for the Spurs. He's a great coach, but he was also blessed that when he became the full-time
And he admitted
coach,
that recently.
he had Tim Duncan and David Robinson, who of course was passing the torch pretty much at that point, but was still a good two-way player. He inherited that roster. And then David retired, but immediately you have Tony and Manu coming in, obviously filling that role. Then he has the big three for almost 2 decades. And then at the end of the Duncan era, he gets Kawhi Leonard, who was one of the best, and then for 2 years was the best defender in the NBA. And now he's in a different position where he doesn't have a superstar. He doesn't have an elite player. He doesn't have what we've had on all our championship teams. One thing I've realized watching these Spurs and previous Spurs teams, we always had an elite two-way player. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard. We don't have that right now. For the first time in my Spurs fandom, we don't have an elite two-way player. So this is uncharted territory for Pop. So I guess my question is going to Clan, is he a good enough coach to take the talent that's maybe but get them to wins? Because we saw it with, to use a football reference, the Philadelphia Eagles, I want to say it was 2 years ago, half their starting roster was injured, and they still won the division because the coach was able to take what they had and assemble a winner out of nothing. Does Pop have that ability, or is it your guys just stink that much?
Well, football is completely
different.
Because if you're talking about NBA, like, it is predicated on talent. Like football, you have to have really great coaches. You have to have great coordinators. You have to have great management. Everything has to be pretty great. In basketball, I mean, you put LeBron James on a team and you're a contender. So, like, I think that's a little different. Like, when it comes to Pop, like, I'm not going to say, like, it seems like everything that's wrong with the team right now was stuff that was kind of out of Popovich's control. It will be different if right now the team, this is the only way I would criticize, like, full on criticize Pop needs to get out of here, is if the team seemed as if they weren't resonating with him, because it seems like they're still good. Like, we're still a team. They're still playing hard every single night. We're still close in these games. They are responding to Pop. They're just not good. Like, if I look at even the Warriors, as good as they look right now, people already forgot that last season and the season prior, when they didn't have when they didn't have Steph Curry, they won 19 games. So, like, no coach, I do believe this. I don't think one coach could go into Popovich's seat right now and win a plethora of games. I just don't think that's the case. And one thing that I will add as well is I just don't think, as it stands right now with this roster that we have, that Pop can do much with it. And even if I'm thinking about DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, they didn't say one negative thing about Pop. Every single thing you hear about Pop is good. And if Pop didn't have it, then he wouldn't have won the Olympics. That was a big thing that was going on. Like, there's no way he can win it. He's lost it. He doesn't have it anymore. And everyone's saying that the USA team looked like trash, and they didn't look good. But Pop was able to get them together and get that win. So it's all about talent. If Pop had talent right now, if he had a Steph Curry on this squad, we'll be talking about how he's the coach of the year again. Yeah. So to me, ever since Kawhi left, that's when this team has went downhill, and that's completely out of his control. And he tried to bring it back together and couldn't. The Kawhi situation was just too bad. I remember, I know you guys probably remember this. He even tried to talk to, because he was going to work his Pop magic to bring Kawhi back. Because when he went to talk to Kawhi, he was like, look, I just want to talk to you. I don't want any parts of Uncle Dennis. Can he not be here? And Uncle Dennis was still showed up, and he talked for Kawhi the entire time. So it was nothing Pop could have done to keep that thing together. And it's just unfortunate. But yeah, he just don't have the talent. And no one can do anything with this roster right now. Like, what can you do? Like, you can't force Brent Forbes to shoot threes, like, yeah.
And to play the other side, because I was playing devil's advocate. 'Cause I try to, I don't just want to be the Spurs homer the whole time on this channel. And I know you guys will also, you'll call it like you see it. Talent's a big part of it. For years, and this is another NFL thing, but for years and years, it was Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Who needed who? And as soon as Tom Brady left the Patriots, they're coming back a little bit this year. But Tom Brady won a Super Bowl.
Jones is coming with a vengeance.
But Brady wins a Super Bowl. I see people mentioning Phil Jackson. Could you be in a better situation as a head coach than going to a team with Michael Jordan, who's my GOAT? Then you go to the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. I mean, you're set up to succeed. I mean, almost anybody could have coached those teams probably and won a championship. So I get it. Pop clearly doesn't have the talent, and I do agree with the chat. I do want to see him get the record, but the Spurs only win 16 games.
They don't have to do that.
I mean, he'll be back next year, and if there's also legacy. And to use a UFC reference, I'm a Chuck Liddell fan, but he's lost, I believe, 6 of his last fights or 5 of his last 6 fights. And I don't want to see Pop be that fighter that hangs around too long. And just after having a fantastic career of so many 15-win seasons, just all of a sudden losing season. And if he decides to stick around another year or two, losing, you know what I mean? Just you look at all that greatness, and then you just see just a bunch of losing seasons, because a lot of fans, not all, but some are, what have you done for me lately? And they might look at Greg Popovich and be like, well, he only won because of Tim Duncan. Look what he did without him. Nothing. I mean, I don't want to see that fantastic winning percentage he has had as a head coach just get totally derailed like a baseball player that's hit over 300 for their whole career, but they decided to stick around 3 years in their 40s and hit 200 each year. Now they're below 300 hitter. I know it may sound weird to talk like
people
that,
will look back in context and they'll be like, "Oh, look at these 2 years for Pop," and you don't want his legacy to be ruined.
If they do that, I think we can just make the assumption they're stupid. Like, I don't care. Like,
they're uninformed.
I don't care, man. I don't care. Like, if you say that, I don't care. Like, say whatever. Look, he doesn't have the talent. It's okay. Popovich is still that guy. What he's done was legendary, and he's going to be the most winning coach ever. So, I mean, people can say what they want, but I mean, I don't. I guess this is just how I am. I think until I see that the team genuinely is not responding to Popovich, I'm going to say Pop can play or coach. It's just many years that we won 15 plus games a season. So if you want to coach 20 more years, I'm cool. I don't care.
I mean, how tall is Pop? We could always put him in at shooting guard or small forward if the team's struggling.
Air Force.
He used the ball.
Force legend.
He used the ball.
Why not? I do want to see him get the record, and yeah, to be honest with you, I've been playing devil's advocate on both sides of Pop. My biggest issue with Greg Popovich, to be completely honest, is because I don't think another coach could do a better job right now. I'm not saying that just as a Spurs fan. Anybody in this situation, we are lacking talent and size. But one thing that I will be critical of the last 3 years, and I'm one you mentioned earlier, is the rotation. Sometimes I don't get it. There's been too many games where I've seen a player have the hot hand, especially last year. Jonte would be just balling out. Whoa, we're at that time. You got to put Patty Mills in. I don't care that you're on. You got to put Patty Mills in. It's got to stick to this rotation. And that's one thing that has driven me crazy as a Spurs fan, is seeing somebody on fire, and then that minute's there, and you make the change.
Honestly, that is I would say that's his biggest weakness, and that's kind of maybe one of his only weaknesses. Like, because even if you go back to like 2013? 2013, yeah, it was 2013 finals. The fact that he didn't have Tim Duncan at the end with the whole Ray Allen thing, like that's always he's human, and that's his flaw. If we ever point towards what's the flaw of Popovich, that can be his flaw. He can get a little too comfortable sometimes with certain players on the floor.
I completely agree with that. I mean, you can go back and you can find like numerous instances in Manu's career where that same kind of thing happened. He'd be super hot and Pop would be like, "Oh, starters coming back in." So
there's a guy in the comments section, I want to say, that's kind of ripping my man Clan here. And he said it's the truth, Clan, accept it. But he said accept as in like accept for that instead of accept.
Accept it.
So, I got you, Clan. I'm always here for you, my man.
Thank you.
I got you.
I'll say this as we and I'm sorry, I went much longer than I thought we would, guys. I thought we'd do this for an hour. We've actually gone for almost 2 hours, so my apologies for keeping you all on tonight. It's been really fun talking to Spurs fans and talking about the team. No matter what we say, and this is to my fellow content creators and everybody in the chat, we're all going to probably have different opinions at one point of who should play, who should, not be on the team, different opinions on Pop. But in the end, we all are Spurs fans, and we want this team to win. And it's a new situation for all of us to see this team losing. Last season was our first year ever, our first time ever in Spurs history they had 2 losing seasons in a row. I want you to think about that. First time in the team's history since, 76 they came into the NBA, they ever had 2 losing seasons in a row. And now this is likely, barring a miracle, the 3rd season in a row we're going to be losing. So it's tough also for us to kind of, handle this. I mean, as a New York Giants fan,
We're
I'm used
learning.
to losing with them. But for the Spurs, they were always my crush. I'm like, well, the Giants suck, but I got the Spurs. And now I got, I don't know, I got nothing.
Hey, man.
Yeah. I was like that with my Cowboys.
Oof, man. I don't know what happened in the last 2 weeks, man. I thought for sure they were the top 3 team in the NFL, but I don't know if Amari Cooper being out's hurt them or if teams have figured out their offense a little bit.
They still are. They just had a few slip-ups. I mean, only 3 losses. They're all right.
Hey, the Chiefs went through a slump. They're going through theirs.
Sure.
Yeah, it happens.
Some teams slump for a game or 2. Some teams slump for a decade. It happens.
Yeah. I'll watch them on Thanksgiving. We'll get that dub.
So I put the link numerous times in the chat tonight. I put a link to both channels in the description below, Clan the Spurs Fan and SSPN. I want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Anything you want to say in closing?
I love it.
I love everyone.
We need more of that in the world, Clan. We
Yeah.
really do.
Very accepting.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
an A.
Except. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. No.
Got the Hawks. We have the Hawks tomorrow night. That should be a winnable game, but yeah.
I'll be there.
Are you actually going to be there? Like,
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Nice.
I'll be at the game Friday too. Yeah, the Celtics game. So
Oh, dope.
SSPN taking over, I guess.
at least the Spurs aren't the Rockets. Well, we're
True.
not that far off, though. What do we have? 3 more wins in them?
True.
Ooh, could be worse. All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being on with me tonight. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you sub these guys up on the way out. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so. That does help the channel. For TSR Sports, Clan the Spurs Fan, and SSPN, what's she going to do when the San Antonio Spurs win the rest of their games and run wild on you? Go Spurs, go!